Now, our friends at Community Impact Bucks have launched a brand new support service. And not only that, it also happens to be Trustees Week. So we thought it would be a good idea to get them on. And so I am very pleased to say that their CEO, Casey Higginson, joins me, as does Nick Horslen, who is the founder and treasurer of Wild Marlow. Hello to both of you.
Hello, thanks very much for having us.
No problem at all.
Nice
Good morning, Nick. Thank you so much. So first of all, Casey, just in case we have people listening who don't know what Community Impact Bucks does, just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. So Community Impact Bucks, we're a local charity. We're all about helping people to get involved and make a difference in their communities here in Buckinghamshire. So for more than 35 years, we've helped people to find volunteering opportunities, to take action in their communities, and we help charities and other not-for-profit groups to get started, to be effective and to grow. And we recently launched a new VCSE Support service to help Bucks, charities and community groups thrive.
Now, I would imagine as well, given what we've all been through over the past nearly 2 years now, that actually, your service must have been so valuable to organisations during the pandemic.
Absolutely. It's been a really tough couple of years for everybody. I think charities and voluntary groups really suffered through the pandemic. All of the usual sort of fundraising routes were cut off. Lots of volunteers weren't able to come out and volunteer with them. And the need for this kind of work, the need for the kinds of services and support that charities and community groups provide has only grown through that time. So it's been a tough time. But I think what's also been really clear through all of that time is how much that voluntary action, those local groups and organisations supporting our local communities are really the glue that holds it all together, and how brilliant it was that the community really stepped up to help each other through those really tough times.
Yeah, that's so true. And Nick, one of the reasons that you are with us is because Wild Marlow was supported by Community Impact Bucks.
Absolutely, and they did a fantastic job, and I'm extremely grateful to them, in particular to Francesca Hockham, who helped with the whole process that we had to go through, which was really good.
And again, just give us a little bit of a background about Wild Marlow and why the group was set up.
Sure, yeah. Actually, you introduced me as the founder. I'm one of the founding trustees of Wild Marlow. So all credit goes to Verity West, really, who was the person who initiated a conversation just over 2 years ago with a group of people in Marlow about what did we want to do to highlight to the rest of the community what happens in Marlow and how great the wildlife is and how great it could be if we took more effort to pay attention to it and care for it. So as one of 6 trustees, I'm actually the treasurer, and I had the responsibility of establishing it as a legal entity. And after a couple of years of running it, we realised that we were perhaps we hadn't chosen quite the right legal entity for us. And so we've had to go through a transition. And that's where Francesca and CIB came in helping us to do that, which was an interesting experience. But what we do is we work with the community in Marlow, all the neighbourhoods within the sort of 3 parishes that surround Marlow and Marlow Town Council. And we illustrate to people what the state of nature is in Marlow and invite them to get involved. So we run work groups in Higginson Park and in the Globe Park and out towards Little Marlow at the Spade Oak Reserve and other places. We take people on nature walks. So we did a fungi foray too, in fact, in the last month, taking them up to Pulling's Hill Wood and Marlow Common. And with an expert from the Bucks Fungi Group, we spent a couple of hours finding various forms of mushrooms, toadstools, fungi, and really getting an insight into the detailed lives of that particular species. And we've done similar things with bats. We've done similar things with birds. We have other things planned with local landowners and farms around barn owls, to do with badgers, to do with stag beetles, and a number of chosen species. I could talk for a long time, so I'll pause there. But was that good?
No, that was absolutely great, and yeah, it sounds like such an important thing that you're doing, and particularly with everything that's going on in the world at the moment and COP26, etc., etc. Just such a vital service that you provide. Katie, tell us a little bit more about the VCSE Support service that you've just launched.
The service helps charities, voluntary and community groups and social enterprises like Wild Marlow by offering support, guidance and training in all aspects of what they're doing. So it's a really tailored service. You can contact us. There's a request for support form on our website, or you can give us a ring and just talk to us a bit about some of the challenges or the areas that any voluntary group is looking for support with. So that could be anything like securing funding, running effectively, recruiting volunteers, and we can help signpost to really useful guidance and resources on our website. We can offer one-to-one tailored advice and support to help groups get through some of those more tricky things that they might need a bit of support with.
And I can so relate to everything that you're saying, and Nick, with regards to you being the treasurer, amongst one of my other jobs here at Wycombe Sound, as well as being presenter and slight sort of jack of all trades, I have the title finance director, which I always think sounds very grand, and people probably assume that actually it means that I know things about finance. I don't really know anything about finance, or certainly didn't when I originally took on the job, and it's organisations then like Community Impact Bucks that are so important because you're able to help us understand actually the sort of things that we have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We can really help hold your hand through some of those things. So it can be really daunting taking on those kinds of roles, but actually, you know, we've got lots of guidance and support to help you through it. And one new thing that we've launched is a new Healthcheck tool for organisations. So if you're a charity or voluntary group, you can use this tool. It's online. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes to run through, and it asks a series of questions that you should be asking yourself as a voluntary organisation or a charity to just make sure that you've got the right policies and procedures in place, that you're looking at, that it looks at 6 core areas around running and developing an organisation, from strategy and business planning, governance, leadership, marketing, finance and recruitment and training. And with all of those sections, it asks a series of questions and then provides you with a list of any actions that you might need to take, as well as advice on where to find the information that you need to put those things in place. So it's a brilliant tool to help you.
It sounds fantastic.
Get going.
Because it sounds like it almost does it all for you, so that actually you can answer the questions and then you know what you've got to do. And again, Nick, you know, so speaking as somebody else from a voluntary organisation, that can be one of the real challenges. Actually, is just sort of setting these things up and then thinking, well, what is it actually that we have to do?
Yeah, you're so right, Bob. And I really relate to what you say about your other financial role. It's amazing. Across the UK, I believe there's something like 24 million volunteers. And between them, they generate around 3 or 4% of GDP through the work they do in areas like health, education, sports, all sorts of areas. So it's fantastic that we have that level of civil society involvement. But the truth is, what happens is small groups have found very quickly their enthusiasm wants them to do certain things with the public, which has health and safety implications, it has financing implications, has legal implications. I was very lucky to meet Verity West and along with her 2 or 3 very expert and professional ecologists who were keen to get Wild Marlow going. Myself, along with a couple of other people who had different skills in different areas, got together and said, yes, we'd be interested in perhaps attending a first meeting as a steering group. And then out of that, we realised that we needed to establish ourselves as a legal entity. And being the guy in the room who had owned his own business. I'd owned a retail pharmacy with my wife in Prestwood for 17 years. I'd worked in the IT industry for many years. I knew a fair bit about business and particularly about finance and legal. And so I was the guy who was left with his hand up saying, yeah, okay, I'll do the dry, boring stuff because we've got very good people who could do a lot of the other work in the habitat and species area, and in particularly with the local community. And what happened was, as I found out all the things that I didn't know as a result of doing it. And over a period of 2 years, after having established Wild Marlow as a CIC with HMRC and Companies House, that's a community impact company, we realised that we had a bit more of an accounting and a tax overhead than we'd been led to believe that we would have. And so we needed to move to a newer structure called a CIO, which is a charity incorporated organisation. And that would enable us as a small charity, because with the Charities Commission, you can't register with the Charities Commission as a charity if you have an income of less than £5,000. And that was a bit of a curveball that blindsided us. But now through the CIO model, the charity incorporated organisation, you can do that. And that wasn't obvious to me. And it actually cost us a lot of time and some money in the process. And my heart goes out to lots of small groups and other charities, because they don't necessarily have the sorts of people that we have, and they don't necessarily even know about community impact bucks, even though community impact bucks have done a great job over many years promoting their services and helping organisations like that. So I would say to any small group out there who's looking to establish themselves, do talk to Katie's team, do get in touch with Community Impact Bucks, check out their website and find out what's involved, because these things shouldn't be inhibitors, but it's very easy to either not get over the first few hurdles or make a few mistakes on the way, and there's plenty of help out there.
And completely, as you say, that actually when you've possibly decided that actually you are going to go down this road, and then you come up against those hurdles, or that you have an experience such as you've wasted a lot of time actually on doing something that maybe you didn't have to do, that can actually then make people think, well, do you know what, I've given it a go. People listening also might think, well, why didn't you use the Healthcheck tool from Community Impact Bucks? The reason for that, Katie, would be you only launched it yesterday.
That's right. It's a brand new tool. So we've it brings together all of the sort of expertise that our brilliant team here at Community Impact Bucks have, but just helps organisations to walk through it themselves. And then when you've sort of walked through it and identified which areas you want to focus on, then you can come to us for that sort of hand-holding support and a bit of advice and a human touch to help you.
Another important thing as well that we should also mention is the fact that this week is Trustees Week. Now, I know it's possibly not quite as exciting as Halloween and the fact that Fireworks Night is coming up, but it's still really, really important, because without trustees, organisations such as Wild Marlow wouldn't exist.
Absolutely. And, you know, being a trustee, it sounds like a big, scary, important word, but it's really just a form of volunteering. So trustees are people like Nick who give their time, their skills, their knowledge to make sure that a charity or voluntary group is running well and is doing what it was set up to do. And it can be a really rewarding experience. So I myself have been a trustee for various organisations over many years, and I've got so much from it. It's a great way to develop your professional skills, your leadership skills. As Nick said, you can sort of put your hand up for things that you think you know a bit about and can help with, and then you learn all sorts of other stuff as you go. So you gain lots of new skills and experience. And it can be a great way to support your career. So I'm now chief exec of a charity, but I moved into promotion opportunities in previous jobs because I was able to demonstrate that leadership experience through having been a trustee. So it's a brilliant, as well as being a brilliant experience, just feeling like you're giving something back and you're making a difference. It's actually a great way to enhance your CV as well, and can also give you references for job hunting.
And so that's such a good bit of advice as well. My children constantly amaze me if they're applying for jobs or something like that. And then I will say to them, well, what about this bit of voluntary work that you did and that? And they'll sort of say, oh, no, that doesn't. Yes, it does. Put it on your CV, definitely, because all of those things are so, so important. Nick, with regards to being a trustee of Wild Marlow, again, how did you find that? And was that one of those things that, first of all, you were slightly thinking, I'm not quite sure about being a trustee. I know nothing about it. And then actually you find that, it's fairly plain sailing, really.
Yeah, I so relate to everything that's been said by Katie and yourself so far. Basically, to be a trustee, you take on some responsibility for the governance of the organisation. And what you're trying to do is to support all those great volunteers who are actually then doing the really important work, the stuff that actually makes a difference, whatever your charity does. And with Wild Marlow, it's really important for us to set free our volunteers, particularly within our steering group, where we've got people who are specialists in bats, in butterflies, in hedgerows. They don't want to get wrapped up in all the finance and legal stuff. They want to do what they're passionate about. And trustees, if they do their job properly, they set a governance framework that allows them to get on and do what needs to be done. It also means that the community can engage with us as an organisation in a very trusted and validated way, because it's very easy for people to set up spoof organisations and scam groups and draw people into things that they think are legitimate and they're not. And that's why getting registered as a proper legal entity is so important. And it's one of those stepping stones to then building the organisation out and building the impact. Because Wild Marlow is really focused on the impact on the issues to do with biodiversity, the issues of wildlife, both animal species, but also plants, but also the connection that has with the environment. And for all of that to work, you need the engagement of local people. So having the trust of local people who follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on our website, people who then subscribe as members, and they pay just £10 a year to be a member, and that entitles them to come on free events and some of the walks and talks that we do. They know that they can trust us because we've actually had to validate ourselves with the Charities Commission and with groups like Community Impact Bucks. And we actually, as trustees, have to provide our own personal credentials to make sure we are who we say we are. So these things are really important. And I think I would put a big plug for the issue of volunteering generally, but also the issue of trustees and governance. Because, for example, I'm also a governor at a primary school in High Wycombe, and governance is so important. And schools across the whole of Wycombe, each of them will be looking for new governors, whether you're a parent and become a parent governor, or whether you're someone with HR skills or legal skills or property skills to help with health and safety. There's a whole range of mix of skills that you need to run charities and to run schools. And if we don't get the right sort of people involved with that, then it's a problem. And I would then underline Katie's point about developing your career. I'm fortunate enough to have had quite a successful career and have retired early with my wife. So my CV doesn't matter to me. But what we do need is a lot of young people. And a lot of those young people are working in professions and in their jobs. They've got families. Their time is really precious to them. So the way that we can leverage them as volunteers without it taking too big a hit on their time is really important. So, I really sort of fly the flag for anyone who's interested in using their passion for whatever it is, whether it's arts, whether it's education, whether it's wildlife. Get involved with these groups. There is a Wild Wycombe group, for example. There's also a Wild Cookham group, a Wild Maidenhead. There's lots of groups doing this sort of work. And the more that we can engage the public in this, the more that we can actually help to improve the state of nature for this country over the next 5, 10, 25 years.
We're doing this interview on Zoom, but I feel that I should say that during all of that, Katie was nodding quite vigorously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the point that Nick made about needing a real mix of people to get involved is really, really important. So volunteers, including trustees, come from all walks of life and all backgrounds. And, some bring really specific skills like that experience of finance or HR or senior management. But lots actually bring lived experience, enthusiasm and drive as well. So, and all of that is really important. Having that real mix of people is really important in having that trust from the community, but also making sure that there's a real mix of ideas going in to keep it all fresh. And one thing that I think is really worth pointing out is that the last time any research was done on this is going back a few years now to 2017, but there were 86,000 young trustees aged between 16 and 34 in the UK, which is fantastic. So more of that. We need more young people to get involved.
Yeah, that's just brilliant. And also, I think probably at that sort of age, I wouldn't have imagined that I could be a trustee, because I think the word trustee, you imagine that's, somebody sort of actually who's got a lot of experience and maybe is slightly more mature, but clearly that's not the case at all.
Yeah, I'll chip in there as well. I would absolutely encourage anybody, whatever their skill set, whatever their educational background, whatever issue of diversity applies to their own demographic, whatever age group, whatever ethnicity, the more variety that we have, the more diversity that we have, the better. And the important thing is that it's about trustees around a table. You as an individual don't have to be expert on everything, and you don't have to worry about the public or personal liability issues, because with a correctly organised group, you have the cover that is needed. And with the right people around the table, you bounce off the ideas from different people who are either expert or just passionate and enthusiastic. bringing in the younger generation to do that is so important, because too often we're relying on people who have been trustees or governors at a later stage in their life and possibly in their retiring years, which is great because they bring a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom and a lot of skills. But sometimes it's not always enough in order to engage the whole community that you're trying to reach out to. So the more that we can bring young people in, the better. And particularly understand how challenging it is if you want to bring in young adults, people in their 20s and 30s who are, working hard in their career. They've got their mortgage to pay. They've got their kids to look after. They've perhaps got elderly parents to look after. It's very easy for them to be able to or to struggle to find time. And yet when you get involved with these groups, and I've been involved with a number of different charities around sort of South Bucks area, it's amazing who steps forward. And it's amazing how often it's like the busiest people who are the most passionate and effective.
Yeah, that's so true. And again, Katie nodding about all of that. Thank you both so much. It's been really, really great speaking to you. Nick, first of all, can you just give us, if people are interested in getting in touch with Wild Marlow and want to know more about that, where they can go for more information?
Yes, please visit wildmarlow.org.uk or Wild Marlow on Facebook or Wild Marlow on Twitter or Wild Marlow on Instagram. Please check out the State of Nature and Biodiversity reports that you can find all across Google and other places like that. If you have any specialist knowledge or specialist interest and live in the Marlow areas, whether that's Great Marlow, Marlow Bottom, Little Marlow area, please check us out online. And equally, if you live outside those areas or are interested in the other wild groups, whether that's Wild Wycombe or Wild Maidenhead, Wild Cookham, and many more, that would be great. Also, let me just do a plug for groups like the Bucks Barks Oxfordshire Wildlife Trust, Chiltern Society, the Chiltern Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, and the Woodland Trust. There are so many great charities and organisations out there that are doing work, and we hope through Wild Marlow that we can bring more of our local residents into this to understand the value of nature locally.
Yeah, so true, and more important than ever as well. And Katie, let us know where people can find more information about the VCS Support Service and also the Healthcheck tool as well.
So we've got the Healthcheck tool, lots of information about the VCSE Support Service and all the best resources and tools for charities and for board volunteers on our website at communityimpactbucks.org.uk. And you can also, if you're interested in becoming a volunteer or becoming a trustee, you can find the latest volunteering vacancies on the website as well. And you can find board volunteering FAQs, which can tell you a little bit more about what's involved in being a volunteer on a charity's board. So that's all on our website, www.communityimpactbucks.org.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much for your time today. That is Nick Horslen from Wild Marlow and Katie Higginson, who is the CEO of Community Impact Bucks.
Online, on Radio Player and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.